welcome back to Behind the Caution Tape. I am your host, CrashLit. Exciting week for USC sports. Definitely been very busy, but before we get into all that, do want to remind you that I am partnering with Knick-Knack, the first officially licensed blind box company that launched their first collection of mini mascots with USC. They sent me the blind box. I got the basketball figure. Because of how cool they are, I want to help you all get your own. So use the coupon code FIGHTONCC for 15% off your next order. Go to getknickknack.com and be sure to follow them at knickknackworld on Instagram. So all that out of the way now, let's get into women's basketball. So the women's team was the number 1 seed in the Spokane region 4. And they took a tough 78-64 loss to number 2 UConn in Spokane in the Elite Eight last Monday. So after we got done recording. It was definitely a tough loss, especially not having Juju Watkins. And Rhea Marshall stepped up, leading with 23 points. While USC did lead a bit in the first, UConn quickly overwhelmed them without Watkins. While USC did have a strong third, couldn't make up for the deficit that they were already in, especially with Paige Beckers and Sarah Strong going off for the Huskies, who would go on to win the national championship yesterday. So USC finishes the season 31-4. And overall, it was an incredible season with a number 5 finish in the AP poll. And I think it's just overall, like I said, it was a really fun year. Obviously, it's heartbreaking how it ended, but just still super happy I had to, go to all those games and just really just end with on such a great note, even though the season didn't. But it's just really fun to just see this team just get better and better. And I'm super confident that this USC team is going to take that next step. So definitely, though, head coach Lindsey Gottlieb has said it is unclear what Juju Watkins' next move will be, whether she will try to redshirt completely or try to come back once she is fully healed. So we will see what she does there. But USC has 4 players in the portal, 2 of which weren't surprising in Dominic Darius. Lindsey Gottlieb basically hinted at that as much in the senior day celebration after the win against Illinois a couple months back, where she basically just said she wanted to finish her degree before starting a new chapter, which I immediately took as she was entering the portal. And then Aaliyah Gales also entered the portal, one that also didn't surprise me either. And as much as obviously I think a lot of fans can really respect Gales' decision, it's not a surprise considering she wasn't getting the playing time that she probably wanted. So she is definitely looking for a fresh start. But I think the 2 biggest blows for sure to this team were Avery Howell and Kaylee Heckel deciding to enter the transfer portal. So those are 2 very big blows because Howell could not miss a 3. I'm obviously exaggerating, but you get my point. Like, they kicked her the ball, like you knew that thing was going in the hoop. So that was definitely a really tough blow for the team. And then Kaylee Heckel, I think that was a tough one too, because she was so much fun to watch. I mean, I've called her the Energizer Bunny because she just does not run out of energy. She's just a relentless player. I've talked with numerous people, especially my mom, who's come to a few games, and has agreed with me. Like, Kaylee's her favorite player to watch. Like, who doesn't love watching K9, who's a USC fan? And so for those reasons, it's just really tough, especially with you expecting to see them expecting bigger roles, but they must know that there must be someone Gottlieb is targeting from the transfer portal, which does lead me to who is that next move? Because obviously a lot of players entering the transfer portal, especially those with like maybe 1 year left who are grad transfers. So does Gottlieb target Olivia Miles from Notre Dame? So we will see how that all goes. But I think it's definitely tough to see those 2 go, especially when you could have really, especially if, they'd have developed really well. I mean, they already were, and, would ascend definitely into bigger roles, especially with Watkins out for at least part of next year, if not the whole year, depending on what she decides to do. So we will see, but definitely, like I said, it's just a blow, especially with how fun those 2 were to watch this year. Like, it was always super exciting to see just how well they play. And obviously, I'm pretty sure I speak for a lot of fans when I say that K9 was a fan favorite for just her relentless energy and just her ability. Even if she didn't have a great game statistically, like, she always was giving 1,000%. And even if her contributions weren't always showing up in the box score, you just saw her throwing herself on the floor, just being relentless and just being a really tough player to have to be guarded by. Like, I wouldn't. I mean, I was never good at basketball, but even if I was playing at this level, I don't think I'd want Kaylee Heckle in my face. So I think it was just for those reasons, just really tough to see. But that said, though, wishing all of them the best of luck in their next chapters. So we'll see what happens next. Meanwhile, the men's basketball took part in the inaugural college basketball crown last week. They got an 89 to 60 win against Tulane in the first round, but then lost 60 to 59 to Villanova in the quarterfinals. Rashawn Agee led with 27 points against the Green Wave, and USC just dominated from start to finish and really just able to just empty the bench and let everyone play. But then against the Wildcats, St. Thomas had a great game, 23 points, and it was back and forth in the first half, and USC got up 12 with about 15 minutes left in the second half before losing the lead and losing by one, surrendering the lead and losing by one, which was definitely a troubling trend throughout the year, seeing USC lose games they should have won, especially if they got up really big, just squandering the lead and collapsing in in the last like 10 minutes of the game. So it was really tough for that one to see that one end that way. So Trojans will end Eric Musselman's first year as head coach with a 17 to 18 overall record. It sounds like Rashawn Agee and Terrence Williams second should be back. St. Thomas is applying for a waiver due to departing Loyola Chicago to focus on his mental health a few years back. And as for transfer portal, we have had seen Kevin Patton Jr., Isaiah Elohim, and Wesley Yates III enter the portal. And Yates is definitely the biggest blow, like not even close because of just the role he played in the starting lineup. And I guess it also hurts a little bit. And look, at the same time, I've said this before. I'll say this as many times as I need to say. I do not blame anyone for doing what they think is best for them. Like, and I say that even for the women I just mentioned, the players on the women's team, especially Avery and Kaylee. Like, they're making the decision that they think is best for them. I respect that. But as a fan, it still feels like an absolute just blow. It still hurts for sure, but I don't blame him. But I'm still reeling from it, I guess. And Wesley, it's a suspension. You know what? Probably something changed. He said he was committed, but obviously things changed. So I thought as long as Quincy Pondexter, who's his cousin on the Musselman's coaching staff here at USC, was on staff, I thought Yates was probably a safe bet to stay. But probably we'll see what happens with him. Wishing him nothing but the best, but definitely a blow. Big player that Musselman does need to keep now is Desmond Claude. Claude was easily the best player on the team and was kind of really helped lay the foundation of this new look program under Musselman. So for that reason, USC needs to do everything it can to keep Desmond Claude. But definitely, even though that's going to be tough blows for sure, USC does have some exciting players coming in with Elijah Arenas, Jerry Easter, and Elsie Harrington coming in as freshmen. Musselman getting busy in the transfer portal too, bringing Jacob Kofi from Virginia, Amarian Dickerson from Robert Morris, Keontae Jones from CSUN, and Drew Fielder, a big man from Georgetown, in from the portal. And Fielder, I don't know too much about him, but I think definitely USC lacking that true big man presence this year is really going to help them, I think. So I think getting a true big man is going to be big for this team. Meanwhile, football also had a tough week with Amarian Peterson announcing that he's entering the portal. That said, though, USC getting a lot of recruits in. It's definitely been very exciting to see my social media just blow up with new recruits. I'm like losing track, but definitely tough week for sure, but still excited to see just how everything plays out with the football team. I still think USC's got a lot of depth, a lot of options. So I still think this is going to be a very good team. So wishing Amarian the best, but still definitely tough to see happen. Track and field had two meets this week. They took part in the Battle at the Beach, which was hosted by Long Beach State on Friday, and then won 6 events, and then took part in the Triton Invitational at UCSD in La Jolla on Saturday and won 3 events there. So up next for them is the Texas A&M 44 Farms Team Invitational. USC looking to keep things strong after a good weekend close to home. Women's volleyball last week announced their spring schedule. They'll have days. They went Saturday at USD. No scores were reported though. And then on April 19th, they will go to Long Beach State. And then on May 3rd, they will go to UC Santa Barbara. So up next for them is their day at Long Beach State, and I'll talk more about that, I think, next week as it gets a little closer. Soccer, meanwhile, has had some big news with just players getting called up for opportunities, and congrats to Maria Alagoa for being called up to U23 for Portugal, and Maribel Flores for getting called up to the U23 Mexico. Alagoa will take part in the Pinatar Cup in Spain with the U23, and Flores will be part of the first ever U23 camp for Mexico. Then, in addition to them, congrats to BK Harris and Simone Jackson on joining the U.S. Women's National Team U23 team as practice players in Carson this weekend. As to the team, up next, they will take part in the U14, take on the Legends U14 boys at Silver Lake on April 12th. That'll be at 7 p.m. And like I said, I think it'll be a good test, especially with, like I was saying, what Maria was telling me about playing against guys helps actually make them better. So excited to see how that goes. And obviously, like I've said, I know I've been promoting about it. I kind of haven't shut up about it, but I really enjoyed my interview with Maria. So really excited for that one. I really think if you haven't listened to it or haven't watched it, go back and check it out because it was a really great interview, especially with just, as I've mentioned, she is a very accomplished athlete for where she's at in her career, and I can't wait to see what she does after graduation. Men's golf took part in the Cowboy Classic hosted by Wyoming. That was on March 31st and April 1st in Maricopa. Came in eighth overall of 23 schools, went 10 under par with an 854 total score. Jack George went tied 11. Gavin Ariella tied 14th. Jack Buchanan tied 26th. Antonio Seifa tied 88th. And Nicholas Dominguez tied 114th. Up next, the final regular season event of the year will be the ASU Thunderbird Classic, hosted by Arizona State at the Papago Golf Club in Phoenix. That'll be from this weekend from April 11th and 12th. USC just needs to finish the regular season strong before embarking in the Big Ten championships. Women's golf had three current athletes and one signing at the Augusta National Women's Amateur last week, with Catherine Park finishing tied fourth overall and Jasmine Koo finishing tied 18th. Up next for the team is the Silverado Showdown, which is happening today through Wednesday at Silverado Country Club at the Silverado Country Club. So lineup will be Catherine Park, Jasmine Koo, Bailey Shoemaker, Kylie Chong, and Cindy Koo. And like with the women's team also needs to just take advantage of their final event to finish strong before Big Ten championships roll around. Men's tennis had a busy week. Three matches, three duels this weekend. They got a win on Tuesday against UCLA, a 4-3 win. They got a 4-0 win on Friday at Penn State, and then lost 4-0 at Ohio State. So against the Bruins, UCLA did get the doubles point, but Peter Mack, Nathan Truve, Oscar Waitman, and Carl Lee won singles matches to earn USC the victory. And it just shows that if you lose that doubles point, just someone else on your team is going to have to step up big. So credit to USC for really getting the job done and holding off UCLA playing really well. Against Penn State, USC got the doubles point with Truve, Carl Lee, and Connor Church winning their singles matches to secure the duel. But then against Ohio State, the Buckeyes got the doubles points and USC unable to win a singles match and were swept. So USC now sits 12-7 on the year overall, 6-3 in Big Ten play. And up next, they'll host Michigan State on Friday at 5, and Spartans are 12-7, 7-2, and Michigan on Sunday at noon. The Wolverines 13-8 and 7-2 in conference. So USC is facing two good teams at the top of the conference. So the Trojans need to come ready to play. Women's tennis, who's was ranked 22nd last week, lost 4-0 on Saturday against Minnesota, or won 4-0 against Minnesota, and then won 4-1 on Sunday against number 19 Wisconsin. So against the Gophers, USC got the doubles point with Grace Piper, Imi Haddad, and Simone Kay winning their singles matches to sweep Minnesota. And against Wisconsin, USC got the doubles points. So Lily Faircloth, Imi Haddad, and Maya Sung win their singles matches to help USC secure a really big duel against a good opponent who's looked really solid all year long. So USC now sits at 11-5 overall, 5-3 in Big Ten play. So up next, they'll play at Nebraska, who is 12-7, 2-6 on Friday at 3, and then at Iowa, who's 11-6, 5-3 on Sunday at 10. So USC facing two teams that are similar in overall record to them, but definitely, obviously, but the Hawkeyes are doing much better in conference than the Huskers. That said, though, these are still going to be two really tough matches, especially when you got to go on the road to take on these schools, and it's going to be definitely a big, kind of busy stretch for this team as they reach the final stretch, as we got 2 weeks left of conference play before the Big Ten championships. So best luck to them. Lacrosse, or no, pardon me, beach volleyball, who was ranked seventh last week, took part in the Best of the West at Main Beach in Laguna. On Friday, they got a 4-1 win against Stanford, and then a 5-0 win against Hawaii. And then on Saturday, they got a 5-0 win against Washington, and then won 5-0 against North Florida. And then Ashley Pater and Kennedy Coakley again continuing to keep impressing, while Madison White and Zoe Henson are also impressing on the top court. So USC, I think, will likely move up from number 7 when the rankings get published. They're now 20-6 on the year. Their season also coming to a close pretty regular season also coming to a close pretty quickly. Only 2 more weeks of regular season competition left. So a lot of these spring sports reaching that final home stretch. So really exciting, a lot of action going on. But yeah, so they're 20-6. They'll take part in the Center of Effort Challenge up in SLO, hosted by Cal Poly. On Friday, they will face Florida State, who's 23-6 at 10 a.m. And then they'll face Cal Poly, who's 21-3 at 7 p.m. later that day. And then Saturday, they'll face Stanford, who's 20-7 at 10:15 a.m. And then one more opponent based on performance to close out the challenge. So the team and opponent and time is TBD. So USC has faced everyone but Cal Poly this year, but it's going to be a challenging weekend given that Stanford and Florida State have both beaten USC. USC has beaten the Cardinal as well, but they have only faced FSU once this year. So definitely a really big weekend for the Trojans to really just position themselves well heading into the MPSF tournament with just 5 duels remaining in the year. Lacrosse lost against number 7 Maryland 17-8 on Saturday at Dignity Health Sports Park, with Maddie Dorr and Hannah Barron leading with 2 goals each. USC did keep it close in the first quarter, but a 9-0 second quarter for the Terps put the game out of reach, and they never looked back. So USC is now 8-5 on the year, 1-4 in Big Ten play, and they dropped from 18th to 22nd. So up next, USC has two games on the road this week at Rutgers, who's 8-6 overall, 2-3 in conference, on Thursday at 5 p.m. on the Big Ten Network. And then at Penn State on Sunday, the Nittany Lions are 6-7 overall, 4-2 in Big Ten play on Sunday at 10 a.m. on the Big Ten Plus. So these are definitely more manageable games, but definitely will be tough games for sure, especially on the road, and especially the one game against Rutgers that will be on the actual Big Ten Network. So a lot more eyeballs on that one, likely. But best of luck to them as they head east. Women's water polo is now in tied 1 with Stanford. Not really sure why they kept them there, but I'm not on. I guess maybe because they've split, but USC's just played and won more games overall. So, oh well. You know what? It is what it is. Can't control it, but still definitely congrats to them getting back into that number 1 seed. And they're now 24-1 on the year and 3-0 in conference play. So they had the week off, but now set to host Arizona State, who's 17-7 and 1-4 on Saturday at 1, and then we'll host San Jose State a day later at the same time, who's 13-10, 2-3, also at 1. Both games on overnight.com. Make sure that is without the I, just so that way people just don't type in the wrong website. And then these teams aren't as strong as that game against Stanford, but USC needs momentum for the final game against UCLA, which is definitely going to be a battle at the Speaker Aquatics Center in Westwood. I think I'm going to go to that one. And then also the MPSF tournament, which will also be hosted by the Bruins. So best of luck to them this week. Excited to recap those games next week when we're back here for the Monday rundown. Men's volleyball had to split their series against Pepperdine, winning against the 8th-ranked Waves 3-1 at Galen Center on Thursday, but losing 3-1 in Malibu the 2 days later. So on Thursday, Jack Duker led with 16 kills, and Sterling Foley led with 12 on Saturday. And then the match on Thursday saw the Waves win the first set, but USC won the last 3. And despite Dylan Klein not playing much, it was just one of the grittiest wins I've seen from this team all season long. And then on Saturday, USC won the first, and then Pepperdine won the next three. All sets were won more decisively. So it was wider margins. It wasn't like 25-23, 25-22. It was definitely like 25-20, 25-21. And the Waves notably winning 25-15 in the third set in Malibu. So definitely they had more of the momentum there. It's definitely a great time. Since I was there Thursday, I didn't go Saturday due to baseball, which we'll talk about next. I was there Thursday and got to see some of my guys, Brendan Reed and Gabe Dyer play. So that was definitely fun to see them. But obviously, that was a tough loss for this team. USC, though, now just 19-3 overall, 7-1 in MPSF play. They held it number 3 this week. So then up next, they'll host Stanford for 2. They'll play them on Friday at 7 p.m. and then Saturday at 5. Both games on the Big Ten Plus. So USC still in tied for first in the MPSF race since UCLA split with Grand Canyon. So they're both now 7-1 in conference play. But USC needs to rebound and finish strong after that season high 10-match win streak was snapped with the loss to the Waves on Saturday. So I'm still really high on this team, especially the freshman that head coach Jeff Nygaard has brought in. So he brought in Parker Tompkinson at middle, who's done really well. Obviously, there are more, but these are the ones who are playing and contributing at a high level. So Parker Tompkinson at middle, Johnny Dykstra at libero, who's been really fun to watch, and then Sterling Foley on the outside stepping at big. And then obviously Caleb Blanchette, who arrived to college a semester early after graduating high school early, has improved, especially after, now having more college experience. Dylan Klein is just continuing to be a beast on the court. I mean, I've loved watching that kid play since he was a freshman. And then you have Jack Duker, who stayed for one more year, who's been on fire since coming back from injury. And then really impressed that Guy Guinness has stepped up in the middle as well and just been a huge asset as both a player and leader for this team, especially after coming from UCLA and winning 2 national championships there. And obviously, I'm never going to stop bugging him about being on the wrong side. But, Guy, welcome to the good side now. Or I'm just glad, or I guess now I've said it, but glad to have you on the good side now, Guy. So great. But like I said, looking forward to those 2 matches against Stanford next week. So should be really big for this team to get some big games in. So, baseball, before I get to the games, congrats to head coach Andy Stankiewicz for being named the USA Collegiate National Team Manager this summer and he'll lead them for the 45th annual USA versus Japan Collegiate All-Star Series from July 8th through the 13th in Japan. So on to how this team did this week. They got a 9-6 win against San Diego State at Great Park on Tuesday. And I went with my dad, and I think partly because I'm really into USC, and we also know John Elliott and his family really well since he and my brother played baseball, travel ball together as kids. I think we're converting him. So yeah. But then San Diego State started out strong, but USC came alive later in the game. It was kind of back and forth, and then big performances from Bryce Martin Gredzalonic, Jack Basier, and Braden Dowd helped the Trojans hold off the Aztecs and get a good midweek win. And then USC swept Ohio State from Friday to Sunday at Great Park, and for their first Big Ten sweep of the year, and they're now on a 5-game winning streak. They won 5-3 on Friday, won 12-9 on Saturday, and then my dad came again to cheer on USC, and then won 10-9 on Sunday. So we'll break down each game by game. Game 1, USC got 5 runs in the first, and then while Caden Hunter did give up 3 runs, he did a good job, I thought, overall. Really, other than that, those 3 runs, I thought he did a really good job. And then so did Brody Purcell, who came in relief for him to finish the game and got the sit. So just really impressed with just USC only needing 2 arms to get the job done that night. Game 2, USC struck first, but Ohio State's bats came alive, and it was just really back and forth game. So, really exciting to watch. It was a really fun game, really back and forth for that one. And then bottom of the 8th, Maximo Martinez, who's been on fire lately, even as a freshman, has just continued to has done really well this week. He had a game-tying 2 RBI double before Andrew Lamb hit a go-ahead triple, and Dean Carpentier hit a 2-run blast to put USC up 12-9. And then Ethan Hedges, who's dominated both behind at the plate and on the mound, came in to get the game-winning save. And then game 3, Ohio State struck first this time, but then USC eventually got it up to be 8-5. And then Ohio State had, or 8, then Ohio State 8-4, and then Ohio State had a 5-run 6th. But then Andrew Harbor came in and pitched 2 2/3 solid innings at the end and at the bottom of the ninth, got them out of a big seventh inning, out of bases jammed too. And then bottom of the ninth, Braden Dowd hits a solo homer to tie it. And after the bases get loaded with 2 outs, after a few guys got walked and Martinez got hit, Dean Carpentier steps up and hits an RBI walk-off. And for Dean, I'm really happy for him. I've known him since his freshman year. He's a great guy, and just he's been in a bit of a slump, but I think he's snapped out of it. So really excited to see him, be like the player I saw last year and also earlier this year. So excited for Dean, especially just get to see him have that moment to kind of just be the walk-off hero. You just love that for a guy like that who's just such a great guy as well, but also just an absolute really great baseball player too. So USC is now 20-11 overall, 9-6 in Big Ten play. And up next, they go on the road. They'll take on LMU, who's 16-16 on Tuesday night at 6. That'll be on ESPN Plus. So USC will have an away game in one of their home stadiums this year. And then they'll play at Penn State, who's 21-10 and 9-6 overall, from Friday to Sunday in State College. Those games will be at 2:30 on Friday, and 2:30 on Saturday, and 10 on Sunday. And all three games will be on the Big Ten Plus. CSC lost to LMU at Page Stadium last year. But I'm confident that this team now on a 5-game win streak, they'll be looking to beat them this year. And then also Penn State's going to be, I think, a really fun but challenging series for sure. How the Nittany Lions are doing, it'll definitely be step up from the competition they faced last week, which I think definitely helped them, get the momentum back. But I'm really high on this team and excited for what they're going to do. So last week, I had a perfect 5-0 week at the games I went to. So I got the win against San Diego State for baseball, and then all 3 baseball games I went to, as well as the men's volleyball against Pepperdine. So that's a perfect 5-0 week there. So that currently puts me at 88-27 on the year and 300. That baseball win against Ohio State was my 300th win as a USC fan. So kind of really a cool milestone to hit. So excited for that. And then as for how I did with the sports, obviously then volleyball, I'm now 10-1, and baseball, I'm 9-6. So definitely both teams have been really fun to watch, as I've said, and just definitely looking forward to more of it. So my plans for this week are going to be, I'm going to baseball at LMU against the Lions on tomorrow. And then I'll be at both men's volleyball matches against Stanford this week on Friday and Saturday. And I'll be at both water polo games on Saturday and Sunday against the Sun Devils and Spartans, respectively. So overall, just really fun week overall, like I said, and that's going to do it for us here on Behind the Caution Tape. Be sure to use my coupon code FIGHTONCC for 15% off your licensed USC knick-knack doll. Go to knickknack.com to buy. And thanks again for everyone who's been supporting me and really just been subscribing and just really showing a lot of love. It just means the world to me, as I've said. Really excited. Be sure to follow me on social media at CrashLit everywhere. Come chat, catch up if you chat and you see me at a game. Happy to talk USC with you. And so that's going to check out my website, crashlit.com. And also, I'm super excited to announce on Friday, I'm going to have USC football alum and former NFL tight end Bob Klein, who played for both the Rams and the Chargers, on my podcast this Friday. So you're definitely going to want to tune in for that episode later this week. So really excited to have Bob on and hear about his time with USC and some of his stories. So looking forward to that. Thank you again for everyone who's been supporting me. I'll see you all Friday. I'll see you all on Friday for my interview with Bob. Fight on.